Yo, 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 welcome to the new channel, the Skinny Nerds. This is now a new channel where we talk about cartoons, everything to do with cartoons and comics here. But we're going to try something new on this channel here today. We're going to dabble into this cartoon world, start a new series that I'm going to call the Cartoon Wars, where I pit cartoon characters and their franchises against their similar counterparts. And how we're going to do it is that we're going to have 6 categories. We're going to have 4 of them. One is going to be animation, one's going to be stories, characters, and cultural impact, and can get up to 5 stars in those categories. And the other 2, they're just ratings and my personal preference. So the ratings for the series and then which one that I feel like is better due to me either watching it or going back and watching it just for the sake of the channel. Then we're going to total it up at the end, and then we'll get the winner of the head-to-head battle. So let's begin today, as we're going to start off with Garfield versus Heathcliff. When I hear the phrase, "get these paws," immediately I think of the 2 cartoon characters that have similar catchphrases and attitudes. Started off as comics and got the chance to be turned into an animated series. They're both orange, fat, yeah, we don't fat shame here, and feline. And we're talking about Heathcliff and Garfield. The battle that started in the mid-70s, and now we're going to declare a clear winner here on the Skinny Nerds Toon Wars. Let's find out which of the 2 competitors is the copycat, the imposter, the Johnny-come-lately, the wannabe, and which of the other ones could be either the aliens or Terminator 2, being that the second is better than the original. So let's start off here with Heathcliff number 1. Created in 1976 as a comic strip, Sundays with Heathcliff, by George Gately, adapted into 2 different animated series. One, Heathcliff and Dingbat, in the early 80s, 82, and then Heathcliff in 1984 to 1986. The second competitor will be Garfield, which was created in 1976 as John Comics, till it was rebranded in 1978, changing the name of the comics to Garfield for a more national distribution. Created by Jim Davis in 2 different animated series, movies, video games, and even a restaurant. No, really, Garfield has a restaurant. Garfield Eats was in Dubai and Canada until the pandemic started, which actually canceled the Canada branch. Both cartoons had early incarnations of toons that didn't quite hit the networks and creators the way that they wanted it, but the second time around, both struck gold. Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats was first in 1984, and then Heathcliff second was Garfield and Friends in 1988. Both popular with the young audiences. Heathcliff was produced by Deke Enterprises. Animation was done by Cuckoo's Nest Studios and Mushi Productions from 1984 to 1986. Garfield was produced by Film Roman and United Media's production from 1988 to 1994. The animation style for Garfield is pretty damn good. The color patterns are solid, there's no frizz, there's more attention to detail on the characters. Heathcliff, on the other hand, is a little less attention to detail, looks more hand-drawn than digital animation, a little frizzy, but maybe that's because of the time period being early 80s, and looks cheaply done as well. But Deke at the time was known by the industry with the acronyms Do It Cheap for the DIC. Animation looks rushed, but still tolerable. Better than, say, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of 1987, but me personally still love Heathcliff, but off the eye test alone, there's no comparison which animation is better. That's Garfield and Friends by 1.5 miles. But keep in mind that there was only a 4-year gap between these 2 shows and won't be able to tell the animation. So the win here goes to Garfield. That put Garfield ahead early. So come on, Heathcliff, we got to step it up. Let's not lose to the fat hungry cat, man. The next category will be stories. Neither toon was known for its intricate drama-filled stories. One has random stories that make sense in the end, while the other is just a day in the life type of stories. Garfield has stories where it ends up in a random part of the world, meanwhile Heathcliff has stories in setting in and around his neighborhood. Well, mostly. Heathcliff's stories could be random, but as well, usually centered around the revenge or the pettiness or his love for his love interest Sonia. The Cadillac Cat stories aren't deep either, but they're still more entertaining and watchable to me than the Garfield farm animals. That's just me personally. We have episodes for Garfield and Friends, such as the season 4 episode Polar Pussycat, where Garfield is sent to the North Pole via a plane, where he catches a nap on a luggage and is sent aboard an aircraft, waking up in the North Pole. Again, another silly premise that probably makes sense in the vein of Garfield and his extremely laziness, but Odie ends up noticing and alerts John, and before you know it, John and Odie rescues Garfield. As for Heathcliff, so for me, Heathcliff, his episodes really were more story-based. It could be, again, plotted on different things such as revenge. There's no specific episode I'm going to give as an example, but for me, just personally, when it comes to the stories with the characters, I'm going to go with Heathcliff here on this one. It's not really a popularity thing. It's just really with the stories and which ones actually get me into it a little bit more. So for me right now, I know it may seem like I'm an NBA referee and sitting here cheating right here, but the story section, I'm just going to give the 3 stars to Heathcliff. Just because of the pure enjoyment I get out of the episodes more than the Garfield ones. And Garfield, I'm handing it 2 stars. Still decent stories where I was still able to watch it as a young kid and not get too bored. But because of the effort put forward in the animation, you could tell there was more effort put forth in the animation for for Garfield than it was the writing. So for this section, Heathcliff wins barely. But neither one of them is, say, like a Hey Arnold or a Recess when it comes to the storytelling. Heathcliff, you finally got on the board, man. The next section is ratings. So it took a lot of research, a lot of frustrating minutes just to try to find ratings for both of these older cartoons from the early 80s. But I thought that it would have been easier to find Garfield and Friends just because of the extreme popularity that it garnered during the time. But after a while of Googling different phrases and trying to come up with different ways to pull up the ratings from some type of a source, I found a site where I was able to get the information. If it's wrong, I apologize, but I'm going to go with what I was able to find. And I got this out of a section from the New York Times article where it said that Garfield had averaged a 6.8 rating, with the highest rating being a 7.5 for a season 7 episode 5, Puss in High Tops in 1994. Heathcliff, on the other hand, I was barely able to find some type of an average rating, and not average rating from IMDb, just an average rating for the Nielsen SoundScans at the time, and it only averaged a 2.3 rating for 1986. So that right there will give the victory to Garfield by a mile. It's not even really a competition with the rating situation. Next for me will be characters. We're gonna go deeper into the character situation here for both. But for me, it's night and day. The Heathcliff characters are, to me, awesome. From Heathcliff, even the kids that he's with, and even the Cadillac Cats. Each character to me is different, have their own personalities, like Riff Raff, Wordsworth, which is the skater, Hector, the tough guy with the tie, even Mungo, who I love, who is the clumsy brute with the red beanie. Even Cleo, she's one of the main characters as well, who was Riff Raff's love interest. These characters are way more interesting than the side characters that we get from Garfield, because besides Odie and John, the friends of the rooster and the chicken and all that, those are not characters for me. The chicken who's still in his shell walking around, but he can't see anything because he's still in an egg. I believe that these side characters for Garfield are too cookie cutter and corny for me. They're boring. They don't really offer anything except for an old McDonald's reference to me. So to me, this section is going to go to Heathcliff solely based on the Cadillac Cats portion of the show compared to the farm section of Garfield. So the 2 stars will go to Garfield, and I'm going to give the 3 stars to Heathcliff for the characters. I mean, I just love Mongo. He's my guy. So growing up, I always thought that I was the Black Wordsworth as well, being a skater, because I knew how to skate on rollerblades at the time as a kid. Nobody really skates on rollerblades anymore. I wonder why. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next section, which is probably going to be another blowout. The cultural impact, and with one that is scheduled to go for another live action film release in 2024, and the merchandise that could be found anywhere. The one that you can barely find in the DVD box set is gonna always be Garfield, hands down. Garfield is the one with the most cultural impact, still releasing movies to this day, which is 40 years later, well, really 50 years from the start of the comic. So hands down is going to go to Garfield. 4 stars is going to go to Garfield, while 2 for Heathcliff. Heathcliff is now on some streaming services, and you're still able to find some socks and t-shirts at least, but unfortunately that's not enough. It's gonna go with Garfield, just be off the base of Garfield's popularity, being able to release movies from the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s to 2010s and now even the 2020s. It's just amazing, and you're able to find Garfield merchandise everywhere. So the victory goes to Garfield. And the final category that we're gonna go with here today, who was created first? So as mentioned earlier, Heathcliff was created and published in 1973, 3 years prior to the release of John, the first issues of Garfield with the original title, pitting Heathcliff as the original and Garfield as the copycat, the Johnny-come-lately. But he's more successful. He's the more successful brand, which is Garfield, and not even Garfield and Friends. It's just Garfield, Odie, and John. They're way more successful. You're able to watch Heathcliff before Garfield, but just out here in the Bay Area where I'm at right here, it was just way more Heathcliff before there was Garfield. And then when Garfield came on, it was like you never seen anything else of Heathcliff. He was gone. Wasn't on Nickelodeon anymore. No more Family Channel. He was gone. So even though Garfield is the Johnny-come-lately, maybe even the imposter, he's still the winner. Heathcliff is not really able to light a candle under Garfield as much as I love Heathcliff. And again, if I was to go and add my personal preference on here, it's gonna always be Heathcliff. I'm just more in tune and just love the overall characters, and even I like the old school drawing of Heathcliff. So I'm more of a big fan of Heathcliff. It'll be my personal preference, but I hate to say it, but Garfield wins. If you put it in front of a panel, most would say Garfield would win. I can't say that I didn't think this was going to happen going in, because to this day Garfield is still relevant. I believe there's even a new series that's also coming out besides the motion picture. So in this case, the copycat wins. He wins by a mile, just like Pepsi to Coke at one point in time. But to me, the Fizz is out of one of them. So that's how I feel about Heathcliff and Garfield. So as of right now, we're going with the victory to Garfield. Yeah, congratulations, Garfield. Even though I don't like you more than Heathcliff, still got to give you your propers. Yeah, that's gonna go for the first half. And what we're gonna do for the next one coming in, as you guys take a look at the graph here, as how I tallied up everything. For the next episode, we will dig deeper, and I will do a much better job editing. This was just the first time coming around. I just wanted to see how this would go. But I do have a second episode that will be planned. In the second episode, we're gonna be comparing two of the great 1990s cartoons, which would be pitting up Mr. Arnold, I forgot what his last name was. I had it before. What, tall man? Short man. Arnold Shortman. There you go. Sorry about the pause. We're going to be pitting Arnold Shortman versus TJ Detweiler next week. So we'll be doing that video. Hopefully we could continue to push these videos out. I do thank you so much for even watching the video and listening. If you do have your own personal preferences or your own ratings, please feel free to put them at the bottom in the comment section. I would love to hear your opinions and even see who you have winning. Probably be Garfield, just by the overall cultural relevance and his popularity, but still would love to get you guys' input down below in the comments. If you like this video, there will be more. I will be releasing one on Doug as well, why he is underrated, and we're going to be digging deep into these cartoons, man. I'm a big cartoon fan from the old 80s and 90s era, even some from the 70s as well. So we'll be digging into those. If you guys have any that you would like me to pit against each other, please put those in the comments below as well, and we'll get to some of those as well, just to help me out and give so far where I could be able to get those out, get those videos edited to you guys. It might not be every week, it might be every 2 weeks or every week and a half. So just depending on how I can edit these with the time that I'm even allowed it from my other job as well. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. If you like, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on Skinny Nerds. Yiddy!